financial management takes place in the broader context of what we refer to as corporate governance. Perhaps to sort of clarify what we mean by corporate governance, let's start out with a short story, which is the story of Enron. Enron was one of the 10 largest corporations by market value. It was named as one of the most innovative companies in the country for 6 years in a row in Fortune magazine. And then in 2001, it turned out that Enron had been engaged in a fairly massive and systematic accounting fraud. It turned out that a great deal of the innovation was just taking place in the financial statements. At that time, the firm employed 22,000 employees. It was a very large corporation, but it ended up going bankrupt. And its accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, was indicted, and due to that indictment, which was at that time the largest accounting firm in terms of the number of clients that it had, actually was put out of business. Now, you can be sure the shareholders in Enron were not happy about what happened to the firm that they owned, not only the employees but the other shareholders. And this issue brings us to this discussion of corporate governance. And in particular here, we'll make reference to agency theory, which examines the relationships between the managers and the owners of the firm. The reason we call this agency theory is, think of a real estate agent. If an individual wants to buy a house, he might hire a real estate agent. The real estate agent works on his behalf. Within this corporate context, the owners of a firm hire managers to run the firm on their behalf. In most cases, certainly for large corporations, the owners of the corporation don't run the firm themselves. Instead, they hire someone, a manager, a board of directors. They elect these people, hire managers to run the firm. The problem is sometimes the employees, the managers, don't do exactly what the shareholders want. The Enron scandal, along with another number of other scandals, led to some changes that occurred. But one of the institutional factors that has changed over time and has sort of balanced shareholder power against the power of the entrenched management is the rise of institutional investors. And by that we mean in particular things like pension funds that own shares in corporations on behalf of the individuals who are the pensioners. These pension funds are obviously concerned about the firms acting in the best interest of the shareholders, and as large investors, these institutional investors can vote large blocks of stock and can organize among themselves to put pressure on management to do the things that the owners want the managers to do, as opposed to engaging in activities that the managers might prefer to do, such as playing more golf and jetting around on a corporate jet. So these institutional investors play an important role in regulating the managers of large multinational corporations, in regulating their activities. Having said that, as a result of Enron and some of the other scandals that occurred, Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Now, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act essentially set up a 5-member public company accounting oversight board who's responsible for developing auditing standards and more specifically for controlling the quality of audits, for requiring firms to have adequate internal controls, for establishing standards for the independence of auditors, and in general the major focus of Sarbanes-Oxley is to make sure that publicly traded corporations accurately present the assets and liabilities that the firm has. having said that, it's a lot easier to pass legislation than it is to implement the legislation in ways that are appropriate. This will continue to be an issue and a concern as to whether or not the costs of Sarbanes-Oxley are warranted given the benefits that they provide. Certainly you see an instance like an Enron that's a multi-billion-dollar failure, and you know there are significant costs to inadequate corporate governance structures. Having said that, it's certainly possible that you could overinvest in monitoring of the executives of corporations, and we've actually seen a significant reduction in the number of small corporations that are publicly traded. Sarbanes-Oxley is sometimes pointed to as a reason that has occurred. Whether that's true or not is open to some debate.